Hello, friends, and welcome to Escaping the Mouse with your host, me, Brick Roll. All right, this is going to be kind of a simple day today. I went to the grocery store this morning just to get a couple things I needed, and kind of got inspired to make something for dinner that I haven't had in a long time. At least not my own concoction of it. Yeah, I get it all the time when I go to a Mexican restaurant, but I love burritos. So I saw some tortilla shells at the grocery store and was inspired to kind of go all out and make some burritos for dinner. Now the beauty of this is when you buy tortillas, you don't just buy one or two, you got to buy 8 of them. So what you end up with is you either make a lot of burritos or you have enough filling to make burritos for multiple days. So that's what I'm going to do. And the beauty is when you get all the ingredients made and whipped up, there's enough meals for a bunch of days. So let's get going on that. So when it comes to burritos, you have kind of your basic mix. It's a lot like the wild rice soup I made, or even the omelet I made recently, where you kind of put into it what you like into it. My favorite things in burritos is definitely ground beef, lots of that with good Mexican flavoring, refried beans, of course, lettuce, cheese, tomatoes, onions, sour cream, and of course flour tortillas. Now normally I like to go with 12 or 14 inch tortillas, but I could only find the 10-inch ones, and so you know what, those are suitable, and you got to work with what you got sometimes. So first thing you got to do is you got to prepare the meat. So let's start with that. Now one of the first things you got to do is you got to get the spice into the ground beef. There's a lot of ways to do it, and there's some very authentic ways to do it. I tend to take a shortcut and find some sort of a seasoning mix that works really well with it. And I've had this McCormick brand. Usually they have like a burrito meat, but burrito meat and taco meat should be the same. So I'm going to prepare a pound of ground beef using the recipe here. So the McCormick taco seasoning mix is actually pretty simple to follow. Basically, you start off with a pound of ground beef and you brown it until it's nice and thoroughly cooked. You drain off the fat, you pour in the seasoning mix and some water and let it simmer for about 5 minutes. So let's do that. I'm going to start by turning on the stove to high, and we will start cooking. So next thing we're going to do now is let's drain off the oil. Now one of the things you want to be careful of when you're straining your meat is when you're straining the grease off of anything like that and you put it down the drain, sometimes it'll congeal inside the drain, it'll plug everything up. I usually get around that issue by running hot water down the drain at the time. That tends to keep the grease in more of a liquid rather than a solid state, and you eliminate that problem. And if anything builds up, you get the hot water to kind of dissolve it and run it down the drain also. So normally what I would do is I would use a strainer to do this, but I haven't unpacked my strainer yet, so I'm going to improvise, and I'm going to use the colander that I use for sifting pasta. So I've already heated up the water to the point where it's nice and warm, and I'm just going to pour the meat and the grease into my colander. Mix it around a little bit just to make sure it all comes out of there. And we are ready to go. Back into the fry pan. At which point we add the seasoning. Smells like good seasoning. And 3 cups of water, or 3/4 of a cup of water. Now I'm going to put it on kind of a low heat. Mine goes from 1 to 10, with 10 being high. I'm going to put it at about 4. Kind of just stir everything in a little bit. And we're going to bring it up to a slow simmer. And once it starts simmering, we're going to let it cook very slowly for about 5 minutes. Yeah, that's starting to look good. While that's working, I'm going to also start working on the refried beans. I've discovered in the past that sometimes the vacuum kind of holds things in here, so once you get it into the pot, if you just poke the hole into the can with the can opener, it lets the air out of the back and it all kind of plops out real easy. Now, to be perfectly honest, refried beans always gross me out a little bit coming out of the can because they look like canned dog food when it comes out. Kind of gross looking, but it will get better. Now with the refried beans, you want to keep it on a very, very low temperature because it's very easy to burn them. So once again, scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to cook it about 4. And we'll just kind of mash it down a little bit to get it started. As it heats up, it'll mix better. Right now it tends to remain in a blob. Okay, we're starting to boil here now. Like I said, very slowly. Now, if you want to do things the old-fashioned way, you can go buy all your cheese and grate it yourself. But since I don't have my food processor yet, I've just elected to use the same kind of cheese I use on my omelets. It's the H-E-B store brand Mexican blend cheese, and I got about a pound of it. And of course, I like lettuce in my burritos too, and I could go buy a head of lettuce and chop it up. But once again, it's easier just to buy the pre-packaged stuff. It may not be the most gourmet in the world, but you know what? It does the job. And I always love tomatoes and onions in mine, and rather than going out and buying tomatoes and onions and cilantro and all that stuff, you can just go buy a pre-packaged pico de gallo sauce, and that's really good too. And of course I love it hot, so I got a spicy one. And then of course you got to have your sour cream, more H-E-B store brand. So my ground beef is now boiling, so I'm going to reduce the heat a little bit more, and I'm going to put a cover on it just to kind of keep everything in there. And we'll turn on the timer for 5 minutes. Take another swab at the refried beans here. Like I said, keep them moving because you don't want to burn them. And it's very easy to do. Bring up the heat a little bit, maybe we'll do a little better with that. Alright, our meat has been cooking now, so I'm going to turn off the heat, pull the cover off of it, give it a nice little stir around here, make sure we're in good shape. And that's about ready to go. Same with our refried beans. They're coming along real nice. Like I said, they get a lot softer once they've started cooking. And this is where it's really dangerous. You got to be careful you don't overcook them because they are very easy to burn. And burned refried beans, they're no fun. Nobody likes that. So since I'm going to eat this over a period of a few days, I've separated the ground beef and the refried beans into separate containers, because then what will happen is when I'm ready to have some, all I got to do is take a little spoon of this, take a little spoon of this, throw it in the microwave for about 45 seconds, and that's my beans and beef. And then just add the pico de gallo sauce, the cheese, the lettuce, and whatever else I need. So now I start with just everything I want on it. Good, nice, healthy spoonful or two of refried beans. Kind of mix it in the middle. Grab your beef. I tend to go a little bit smaller portions on this because for some reason I tend to overwrap my burritos and then there's too much material in there. And it doesn't all fit, and then you end up having to eat it with a fork, and that's not really how you're supposed to eat a burrito, right? Might want to get a couple spoons just to keep everything from getting mixed together, because you don't want refried beans in your pico de gallo, right? Kind of cover it around real good so you make sure you got a good, nice, healthy dosage everywhere. Add the cheese. Add the lettuce. And of course with me you can't have anything that isn't hot. I know I've got the pico de gallo sauce in there that's hot, but let's add a little bit more fire. And that is it. We got our burrito made. Now we got to do is roll it. See, I may have already made the same mistake I just talked about because there's probably too much in here. And there you go. That is going to be one tasty burrito. So if you like Mexican food, this is actually a fairly cost-effective and really tasty meal. I think all in all, it was about $25 worth of supplies, and I'm going to get eight meals out of this thing easily. So yeah, definitely worth the time and the effort. It took me 10 minutes to prepare it, so what more could you ask, right? So I'm going to wrap this up real quickly because I'm hungry and I want to eat that thing. But like I said, that was a really simple thing to do. Didn't take a whole lot of prep work. I got a couple things I got to clean up, but that's all dishwasher stuff. And so, that's all there is to it. There's nothing really tricky about making a good burrito. So hope you enjoyed that. Thank you for watching as always, and I will see you next time on Escaping the Mouse. Bon appetit.